MMA. I'm Mark Gilston. This is my friend Brandon. And this afternoon, I thought I would go into defense against chokes. Now, this is a huge topic. There are lots and lots of different chokes, and I'm going to break this into two videos. The first is going to be more about general principles of defending. We'll be showing some specifics of certain chokes. Second video, I want to go into more detail with more of the different specifics that you have to use against some of the other chokes, some of the more esoteric ones, and some of the ones where the principles may not work as well as one would like them to without some kind of specialized compensation. So, since I've choked Brandon quite a bit over the videos we've had, I'm going to let him choke me this time. All right? So, basic principles. When you are defending against chokes, you have to think about, most importantly, breaking balance. Just like when you're throwing, in order to successfully choke somebody, you have to break their balance. But if somebody is trying to choke you, they have to be in balance. Just as if somebody is trying to throw you, they really need to be in balance. So if I can break his balance, I can keep myself from being choked. The other things are, in general, when you want to choke someone, you want their head above yours. So to defend against chokes, I want to keep my head higher than Brandon's as much as possible. Most chokes, you want to close the space. So for defending against chokes, I want to create space as much as possible. And then the rest of it boils down to specifics. But one very important principle, if I am trying to control the arm which is doing the choking, I want to be as far to the end of the arm as possible. Because here, just like when you're gripping for stand work, if I'm here, he has this strong tricep and he has a lot of control. He can break my grip easily. Whereas if I'm holding him at the sleeve and he tries to break the grip, it's very difficult for him. And I can use that to help off balance him and bring him out of danger's way for me. So, the most obvious is the standing cross collar choke, right? This is, in self-defense, you're talking about with the fingers in. Of course, that's not going to happen in a BJJ or Judo setting, but it's still the same principle involved. So if he is, in a self-defense kind of situation, if he's coming up and he wants to strangle me, I mean, we're taught to break this way. But if I create distance, he can't choke me. If my head is higher than his, he can't choke me. If he's off balance, he can't choke me. So all of these principles are there. Now, what can happen if you're coming around, somebody can get a cross collar choke on you. So the same things apply. So if he comes in for cross collar, and this is a legitimate choke, all right? So I can try and break balance, and he can't choke me. I can bring my head up above his, and he can't choke me. Go ahead. He can't do it. It's ineffective. And I can create space, right? Just pushing those arms away a little bit, create space, and he can't choke me. Now, I want to just mention a very technical way which you break a cross-collar choke, which I will go into more when we're down on the mat. But there is a technical move called a weave, which is extremely important to know. So I want to take an arm, I'm going to go over the pulling arm and under the choking arm. And then I'm going to move sideways. So if he is, even if he has a fairly solid choke in here, I can come in and break that choke. So that's a very useful technique, which is a little bit separate from the principles that I'm talking about. It's more specific. All right, so let's start looking at some practical applications. Probably the most common choke in BJJ is what is called a rear naked choke. That is not the proper name for it. In Judo, a rear naked choke is like so. What they call a rear naked choke is actually a sleeper. It comes from pro wrestling, but it is a very effective move when it's done properly. So if he has my back, all right, he has a hand. He's going to try and line his elbow up with my chin. He grabs his bicep. And very important, this hand is palm towards his chest. Note that if his palm is towards me, if he's pushing on my head with his palm, do it the wrong way, that he actually gives me space. And if he does this, all I have to do to stop the choke is tuck my chin. And I'm raising my shoulders, making a frown, tucking my chin, and he has to use a tremendous amount of strength, and it's still, most of the time, is totally ineffective. So let's assume that he knows what he's doing and he's choking me properly. What I need to do, since he needs to bring his core, when you choke somebody, you bring your core forward and you arch a little bit, right? That closes the gap for him, but if I can prevent him from engaging his core, I can pretty much defend against the choke. So how I'm going to do that is push on the knees and try and lock in his hooks. At this point, he can't bring his stomach forward, right? And therefore, even though there's quite a bit of pressure, he's not successfully choking me. Obviously, I don't want to keep this here because it's uncomfortable, and ultimately he will choke me. He's going to fight to bring his legs free. So I grab the sleeve. I want to grab as high towards his collar as possible. If I can grab the collar, I can pull him around, and that has made space, and therefore there is no choke. So as soon as this comes in, people tend to do this. This is a stopgap. It's not very effective. Most people can just continue to choke you. I want to grab as far up the sleeve as possible. If I can't get the collar, I'll still grab the gi. Pull that in to create space. It's important for me to try and get to my side. From here, I drop my hips, turn in, and push with my head to regain control. I can get into a nice side position from there. So that principle of pulling high on the sleeve to create space is important. Now, I did mention earlier grabbing at the wrist, so let's look at that, because the problem here is that I have no leverage. So that's not going to work. However, this wrist, if I can grab that wrist, I have something. Now I'm pulling it up and forward. And from here, I can actually turn pinky down and apply an arm bar. So if you can get that, he comes in. I want to make sure he can't finish first. Now I have time, and I'm not pulling it out, I'm going straight up. Then with the other hand, I can finish. All right. So a sliding lapel choke is the other most common choke that somebody is going to do from behind. So he reaches in. He's already putting pressure on my carotid artery, which I don't like. So I'm going to already try and start to defend. He grabs the far collar, and this goes straight down. All right, so in order to block this choke, again, the first thing I want to do is make sure he can't engage. So he comes in for the choke, and I don't let him bring his stomach forward. He wants to bring his elbows down and arch back, and I have prevented him from doing so. At that point, here I am grabbing at the wrist, and this hand comes up towards the collar. Once again, turning and rolling in the same way we did from the other rear choke. Okay, now there is a classic defense to this choke, and that is, it's very similar, preventing his head from being higher than mine. So he wants his head here, so he's pushing in. I'm going to grab that head and pull it down. This relieves the pressure, but it doesn't get me out of the choke. So once again, I must reach around. Notice how I'm pinning his leg, keeping that weight on his leg, and now I can move back up into a side pinning position. So if he knows judo and he knows that counter, when I do this, he reaches behind my head, extends his arm into kata hajime, and once again finishes me. So when I come in to try and block, right, again, this will pretty much stop him if I can get power over the hooks. But as he starts to extend, now I'm taking his hand and moving it out of the way. Lock under. This is a wrist lock, not legal in judo, fine in BJJ. Or I can just move up here and apply the arm bar. All right, so the rear naked choke, Hadaka Jime, usually demonstrated from this position, so you'll note that I can't, he can't hook me, but I can't prevent him from bringing his stomach forward in this particular case. So he comes in. This ridge of his hand here is going to be pushing my muscle out of the way, and that exposes the carotid, and the other hand comes under, and the head goes down. All right, so once again, this is extremely important to block. I'm moving forward to create space and turning. In a more realistic situation, he comes in. If he has his hooks in, I'm always going to try and prevent the choke with this. And so once again, because he can't bring his stomach in, it's very difficult for him to finish. Go ahead. So I can hold this for quite a while. But eventually, turn, And using that head, once again, to maintain control. So this principle really works very well against most chokes from the rear. Now it sort of goes without saying that I really don't want him to get in for his chokes. So as he starts to come across, I'm gonna take my hand and hook it. I'm never gonna try and grab him this way. It can hurt a finger, hurt my thumb, but I'm just hooking his hand and bringing it in. And this is frustrating for him. It's very hard for him to actually choke me. He's probably gonna go fast and furious trying to get in. Go ahead. But even if I lose one side, right, he gets across, I can still continue that hand fighting. So that's a very important principle. Do you have a timestamp for where we are?
We're at 27 minutes.
Seriously? Holy mackerel. All right. Let's take the break here. Yep. Maybe 3 videos or 4 videos. If you've enjoyed the video, please click like and subscribe to our channel, Seryoku Zenyo, meaning maximum efficiency. If you click on the bell, you can get the videos as soon as they are posted. Thank you, Brandon.